Hey, I'm Dennis Scholl. We're on Nerds After Dark. I'm here with my co-director, Kareem Tabsch, and we've got a new film coming out called Naked Ambition. Kareem, what do you think?
I think we want you to watch it. It's a film about the incredible Bunny Yeager, a pinup model turned photographer who made some of the largest contributions to pop culture that you don't even know about. She helped popularize the bikini, helped discover Bettie Page, early contributor to Playboy magazine, and she basically invented the selfie. And you don't know about her name, but her story is incredible. Her photos are incredible, and it's in theaters on September 12th. And we're talking with Tito P about it on Nerds After Dark. Give it a listen.
And listen and watch Nerds After Dark. I love it.
Uno, dos, uno, dos, tres.
Pose. Pretty.
Uno, dos, tres.
Pose.
Bunny Yeager, is that right?
How many beautiful girls do you know who could have been a major model, movie star? How many do you know would be a photographer of pinup girls?
The work that she did paved the way for me to be able to do what I do now.
She taught people how to take the first selfies.
I said, I want to meet this lady who's taking pictures that looks like this.
Bunny had a style of her own.
Not only was she the first female photographer to shoot for Playboy, she was one of the first photographers to shoot for Playboy at all.
She went and she photographed Bettie Page with the Christmas tree and the Christmas hat, and they both became famous.
The closest relationship that Hefner had to a photographer was with Bunny Yeager.
A flood tide of filth is engulfing our country in the form of newsstand obscenity.
You're really looking at a choice that women were making to get involved with pinup photography at the time.
I was supporting my mother and myself and had a household to take care of.
I'm married and I have 2 children, and I can make my own hours and still indulge in having a career.
She was fearless.
She was a boundary pusher, and she was an easy target.
Bunny was the most famous female photographer in America.
Boom, there you go. That was the trailer for Naked Ambition, arriving in theaters starting September 12th. I'm Tito P. This is Nerds Rule the World presents the Nerds After Dark show. And as you saw from the trailer, as you saw from the thumbnail, we're going to be talking all about Naked Ambition. It's probably in my top 3 of docs of the year. And joining me to talk all about it are the directors behind the project. I have Dennis Scholl and Kareem Tabsch. Thank you both for your time. Truly appreciate you guys taking some time out your day to help me celebrate, if you will, this release and this film that to me, as a fellow artist, as a fellow creative, is so inspiring and so sorely needed when a lot of stories are kind of being pulled from the history right now, if you will. But we won't talk politics. Bunny Yeager, how did you both discover her for yourselves? What was your introduction? And then we'll get into some other questions. I'm curious at first. Were you just reading Playboy for the articles, or did you see the pictures? Can we start with each of you, how you both discovered Bunny Yeager individually, and then we'll get into this project. If I could start with you, Kareem. I was definitely reading Playboy for the articles and not the pictures. Of the two of us, I can attest to that.
I, on the other hand, was looking at the pictures hard.
This is why we're a good team. I think I first came across Bunny's work as just somebody who's born and raised and lives in Miami. It was kind of out there. You just kind of knew of it. I was familiar with her Bettie Page pictures, probably first and foremost. I had an older brother who also looked at Playboy for the photos and the articles, and had gotten some prints actually from Bunny during her era later in life when she was selling stuff on eBay, and he was very excited about having those, and that was kind of one of my early forays into learning about her work. And admiring it, but really kind of the both invitation
to submerge myself in Bunny's world and to get involved in the project came as a result of Dennis inviting me into the sandbox and saying, "You got to find out about this. Let's make this movie together." So I'll let him tell you a bit more about the long, deep-rooted relationship there.
Definitely, we'll get there. Dennis, what mag? Do you remember what picture or what was it?
Well, there's nothing like a picture of a woman in a leopard skin bikini holding two cheetahs. I mean, when you got that, you're gonna say to yourself, "This might be a movie." So, Bunny's been in the consciousness of the 305 Miami for many, many, many years, for decades and decades. And I had completed a film about soul music in Miami in the 1960s. And it was exciting and it went well. And, we showed it at South by and I was looking for something, a next project. And somebody called me and said, you got to look at Bunny as a project. I said, yeah, sure. It makes good sense to me. So I went over to meet with Bunny and I met with her 3-4 times. And on the fourth time I said, "Bunny, want to do a film about you?" She goes, "Absolutely not." She's 83 at this point. She goes, "I am way too busy. I got books to do and models to shoot and blah, blah, blah." And she literally just sent me away with my tail between my legs. So over the period of about 2 years, I would always show up. I would always come to whatever she was doing. And just one day she looked at me and she said, "Okay, we got to do this film." And I don't know whether she finally felt her mortality at that point, but that's how we started.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm an 80s baby, so I snuck the Playboys, but then after my dad found out, he was like, "You know what, son? Check out also the articles as well. You'll help you grow as a man." And I was actually quite surprised, to be honest. I'm like, oh, there really is actually, people like to joke on that quite a bit, but I think I learned a lot as a young man growing up, and then obviously enjoyed the pictures as well.
Playboy is one of the greatest First Amendment defenders in our country. They spent tens of millions of dollars defending the First Amendment. And they did it, without anything in return. So they are really an important part of our history when it comes to freedom of speech.
And we joke about reading the articles, and they also were a driver of some of the greatest literary voices of our time, who they hired to write for them. So I think people will walk away with whatever they feel about Playboy and its photos of beautiful women in it. But it was revolutionary, and Bunny played no small part in kind of help shaping that image.
Completely agree. And I stand by all of those counts as somebody who, again, as a kid growing up, saw that, but then wanted to get into the arts, learning about reading articles from Spielberg and all these other, like we said, icons that participated in this. But for one of the first things I wanted to do was become a filmmaker and / photographer. And that's how I came across Bunny Yeager. And now I've learned so much more through this documentary. So I, again, want to thank you guys for this. So you get Bunny to agree, Dennis. You get Kareem on board. Let's talk about now, making this happen, because I think as a fellow filmmaker, especially when you're in the documentary world, it's honoring your subject, honoring the people that are participating in that, and getting the people involved. To me, it's a lot more difficult of a task outside of non-doc type of work. So can we talk about, okay, we got her on board. Now we're in pre-pro, lining up people to speak on this and how that went. If I can go back to you, Kareem.
Actually, I'm gonna throw this one to Dennis, because Dennis is in the moment of this one. This actually predates me getting involved, but he tells this story from a firsthand perspective. So Dennis, share.
It's not a good story, bro. So I scramble a crew. The minute she says yes, I mean, she's now 85. Okay. I've learned over the years, I've made 80 shorts and 7 features, that you just gotta go when somebody says yes, who's a protagonist in your film. I scrambled this big crew, biggest crew I've ever had before and after. I mean, I got guys pushing, cameras on carts and dollies, and it's all over the place. And the day of the shoot, we rent this big warehouse. We stage 5-6 sets, and Bunny's supposed to come at 10. So I started early anyway. I was interviewing a lot of other people, some of her models, some of the people in Miami that knew her. And I get a call at 10, and they say, Bunny's a little slow today. I said, it's okay. I'm behind already anyway. They said, she'll be there at 12. Okay. At 12, they call and say 2. At 2, they call and say 4. At 4, they call and say Bunny's in the hospital. Bunny dies.
Oh, wow. Wow. So this happened during the course of the production.
Yeah. And so I actually was so bummed out about this. I was so depressed. I just packaged, we shot for the 2 days, a lot of B-roll, a lot of other things, some interviews, because I'd already had everybody in place. And who knew that I might come back to it? Pack everything up, put it, that drawer in your closet way up there that you put stuff that you're never going to look at again? I put it there.
Wow.
So that's now I'm 2 years in. That's 2014. So this film's in gestation for 13 years. In 2018, Kareem and I make a film together, our first film together, called The Last Resort, and it just rocks. I mean, it's everywhere. It gets picked up by Netflix. It played in theaters for 15 weeks. And then they asked me one day on one of these interviews, what are you going to do next? And honestly, man, I didn't have anything. And so that's never an answer. You never want to give that answer. So I said, I'm going to do this film about Bunny Yeager. And they said, oh, what a great follow-up to your film, about Miami in the 70s. Here's Miami in the 50s. And so that's how it happened. But I knew right away, because I do have a tendency to make films that are very hagiographic. They're very honoring the subject, just like you said before. That made me feel really good when you said that, because that's how I make films. I knew right away I had to have somebody that would push back with me. And Kareem and I had made this other film, and we loved doing it together. So I called him, and immediately when I had said that I was going to do the film, he said yes, and then we started rocking. This is around 2019, I say. So we're getting ready to start shooting, and we start shooting in early 2020, and of course, the world stops for another 2.5 years.
Wow.
Okay, so now I'm at 2023. I've got probably, a lot of stuff in the can, but it's not a movie. And finally, when we could start going out and interviewing really amazing people, and Kareem will talk about the interview with Larry King, his last interview, and with Dita Von Teese and Bruce Weber. When we do that, then all of a sudden we got a movie. So Kareem, maybe you want to pick it up from there.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was this great opportunity we had such a wonderful collaboration on The Last Resort. It was so well received by audiences. And similarly, that's a film that's about photographers, but really it's a film about the larger community. And that's, let's get the band back together. And I mean, this is a project, as Dennis has described, it's been kind of plagued by circumstances, what I'm going to call it, right? Like, you should, you plan, there's that old thing, you plan and God laughs. And so that was one of these, kind of things. But when we sat down and, we realized, we don't have Bunny to tell us the story in her own voice, in her own first person experience, which was what was Dennis's initial intention. So, how do we bring her work to life? First of all, we had the access to this beautiful photography, which is, really the star of the show. We had great archival that we had started discovering, because that was a really long process of what we found we had. And then we wanted to talk to other people who could kind of help either contextualize Bunny's importance in the world of contemporary photography, contemporary art, but also the larger, societal, from a societal perspective. And so, as always with docs, you kind of figure out who's out there who can tell this story. So we had a long list of really wonderful people that we approached, and basically everyone said yes. We'd approached, one of the foremost experts, if not the foremost expert in men's magazines in the country, is a woman named Diane Hansen. She is that's the greatest title of maybe anyone. She's the sexy book editor at Taschen, the art publisher. She was really helpful in helping us contextualize the world of men's magazines and of pinup photography and kind of where Bunny lays within it. We knew the Bettie Page story was hugely important, part of Bunny's legacy, and so we were able to speak to Guinevere Turner, who was the writer of the film The Notorious Bettie Page, and who was going to play Bettie Page, and who had spoken to Bunny, and she was great. And then we wanted, some kind of who are our celebrity voices who can kind of help bring this to light. And so, the amazing Dita Von Teese, burlesque superstar, had long been a fan of Bunny's work, had written the foreword to a book about Bunny's work, and we know, and Dita's just, she's kept pinup photography alive more than anyone else, probably, in her style. And so we approached her, and she very graciously said she would be happy to do it, and did. And then we say, well, who's a contemporary of Bunny? I think actually this might have come up as we were going through the archives, and we'd seen some letters between Bunny and Larry King, the legendary Larry King, who many people may not know, started his career in Miami Beach. And he started his career in Miami Beach during the same time that Bunny was photographing. And so we were connected to Larry, who's just kind of just a treasure trove of stories. He's just like, you just sit him in a chair and press play and just say, talk, dude. And it was just like one funny story. And maybe one of my favorite moments in the film, which we won't give away if you want to watch it, is Larry King's kind of recollection of an experience in Miami that really helped paint what Miami was in and of the day. And then from the world of contemporary art, who's a masterful photographer? Well, I first say nobody understands the world of contemporary art better than my co-director Dennis Scholl, who has collected contemporary art, is an artist, and very involved. And one thing we knew is that Bunny had a very close relationship with the legendary Bruce Weber, who loved Bunny and loved her work. And so Dennis was able to approach Bruce, and he shared so much. So all of these voices came together to help paint the picture of who Bunny was, since we couldn't get her to share her story in her own words.
I love that. I love that. First, two things before I continue. Dennis, shout out to you for seeing the way through on this project. Because what you just said about how kind of like you start on it and then all of a sudden this happens, right? And you get shelved and you put it where you don't think you're going to reach it again, as you said. And you saw it through to come back to it. So I got to give you much love and props, because we wouldn't have this doc if you didn't revisit it. So thank you to that.
13 years is a long time, even for me. I'm a pretty slow filmmaker, like slow food, but 13 years is even long for me.
Thank you, sir. And the Larry King, real quick, I want to talk a little bit about those kind of things. That made me smile, and I don't want to spoil for people as well. That made me smile, and just also I didn't know kind of that tie-in of them both being in Miami and kind of where Larry King got that start. I do recall. I'm a bit of an old head. I'm an old soul. So yeah, that just was beautiful. So yes, you got so many amazing participants. We're now rocking this doc. We're in business. We got some amazing people. Again, shout out to Dita Von Teese, Bruce Weber, or Dan Weber. I'm sorry if I messed up that name. But just amazing folks involved. But what grabbed me though is the family, and then those story elements that were brought to the table. You had one that I believe had to use hands that doesn't. I'm not sure what her condition is. My apologies, but she had an interpreter. Can we talk about that and getting the families co-sign on this and having them involved? I just thought that was so very interesting. And again, I was learning so much through this that I didn't know before. If I can go back to you, Dennis.
Yeah, I think that in every film, you're trying to find out where the true tension is. And, Kareem is particularly good at that. And it's why, I even when he's not working directly with me, he's always got my back. And so I always go to him when I'm making a film and I say, where is it? And he's really great at finding it. And we saw pretty quickly, even before we sat anybody down, that there was this incredible tension between the two daughters. You have Lisa, who was born deaf and was managing her mother's work while her mother was alive and after it passed for a while. And then you have her sister, Sherry Lou, who was, kind of a very religious person and felt this was all wrong. And then you have the fun part of Sherry Lou's daughter, not Lisa's daughter, but Sherry Lou's daughter, saying, "Oh no, my grandma was awesome. She what she did was amazing." So you've got this weird maelstrom going on, and you could just feel in the interviews, and and they were all very civil and kind and nice, but it was there. You could really feel it.
Kareem, if you can touch upon that, speaking with them, what did you think as well? Did you learn anything new?
Yeah, I think that the thing that you learn is that how you could be siblings, how you could be members of the same household, and walk away shaped as completely different people, right, and with different experiences. And I think that the film is kind of a real testament to that. You have these two siblings who are only a few years apart in age, and who had such a different relationship with the work. And with their mother than one another, and who really show kind of this the challenges of growing up in a household where you have a mother who is incredibly talented, incredibly ambitious, and decades ahead of her time, and and wanted to be wanted to be in front of the camera, wanted to be behind the camera, but also wanted to be the PTA mom. And how sometimes all those things, didn't necessarily gel as well as possible and left people feeling complicated. And so it's really as we talk about like the tension in the film, I think you could see it through the family, but it's very different lenses. Lisa does, as she says in the film, she does look at the world through the lens of a deaf person. And her mother none of her sibling never learned sign language. And so in some ways a lot of the world was kept away from her. But interestingly enough, she is the one who becomes most involved with her mother's work, particularly late in life. And Sherry Lou was very present for all of it, and a little older and was able to see things. Lisa had she'd gone away to deaf school at one point, and Sherry Lou had the opposite reaction, right? She pushed against the work for decades, and in fact, in many ways, still does. Admires her mother's talent and her mother's artistry, but doesn't agree with the nudity. You
gotta feel for Sherry Lou a little bit, because
totally.
She's in junior high, early high school, and her mom's coming to the PTA meeting in go-go boots and a mini skirt and the bouffant and all that. I mean, she's just coming into her own maturity, and yet mom is there kind of like blowing everybody out of the water, and everybody knows what she does because she's pretty famous in Miami. So I respect her for that. It's a strong position that she takes, but she really felt some of it.
Yeah, totally. And the great thing is about it, honestly, is that everyone was really forthright with us. Like they didn't hold back at all. They were very respectful of one another and their different experiences and opinions on it. But they opened up those wounds for us, and I think it made for a better film to have the perspective of the people closest to her in it.
Definitely. I have to tell you guys, that made the film for me in so many ways. And I really appreciated them giving you all of them individually, because it broke my heart, like with her deafness and then the family not understanding. But then I understood that in certain ways. And then with everyone else, that again, they're different perspectives, but then how they also grew as well. And I hope they grow and especially will appreciate this documentary about their mother, because it's outstanding, gentlemen. I again wanted more. I wish this was a series. You did. It's an amazing feature. It's going to be again in my top list of docs for the year. But I want more. So I was like, I want a series. Can we expand maybe later on? I don't know if you got footage that didn't make it. So with that being said, was there stuff that had to be cut for time and story that we can maybe touch upon, and or if not that? Was there something you learned along the way in production that you didn't know about Bunny Yeager? If I could go back to you, Dennis.
There was our editor, Dita Von Teese. She is been editing most of my films for the last few years, and she really added so much to the film because she came at it from a very different perspective, and the three of us come at it from a very different perspective, lifestyle wise, and for this film, normally you're going around and saying, gosh, I hope I can find a little bit of archival here or there. This film, it was like drinking from a fire hose. It just came at you every which way. And, because Bunny's métier was putting herself out there and putting her people out there, her models and things. So there was actually a wealth of material that we did not get into the film. And you're right. There's enough material to do more and something else and pick one of the segments. I think the thing that made me the happiest about the film that only evolved through the film is the parallel between Bunny's life and the sexual revolution in our country. It was a direct parallel, and it led to Bunny's downfall as society became more and more liberal, more and more willing to embrace complete pornography as opposed to pinup. Bunny rode the wave up as we became more relaxed about, sex and photos, in America. And then she, unfortunately, was unable to surf the next wave, which is when it became very graphic and very pornographic. And so that was a really important realization for me once I started to align the dots between the history of the sexualization, if you will, of America and Bunny's lifespan as a photographer.
Love it. Love it. How about you, Kareem?
You know, I think Dennis hit the nail right on the head. It was like drinking from a fire hose as far as how much that there's out there. I mean, there's so many kind of fun anecdotes and interesting things we could tell you about that didn't make it into the film. So part of making a film is like what's important and and you always ask yourself, does this help move the story along? Is it going to keep us going? Is it keep us, or does it take us off on a tangent? But like some fun facts is that Bunny went on a date with Joe DiMaggio before he was married to Marilyn Monroe. She knew Howard Hughes.
Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood is the legendary Howard Hughes. Clint Eastwood. I think the one thing that I lament that we weren't able to get into more, and there were some kind of real reasons why it couldn't work out, is her role in popularizing the bikini. Right, that's a thing to me that we talk about it in the film briefly, and because of some archival we couldn't find outside. But if anyone who does their research will realize Bunny is credited with popularizing it, and that's such a huge part of American pop culture, right? And so that's one of those things. But really, Bunny is just such an incredible person who lived in one life, lived so many different lives. That there's just so much that got kind of left off on the editing room floor, and thousands and thousands of photographs that are not in the film. But as Dennis says, Dennis always identifies himself as the filmmaker who makes films about artists, and I think that when we talk about this, we want people to kind of like appreciate Bunny as an artist, but also as somebody who's way ahead of her time. And I think our real hope at the end of the day is that people were going to go out and look for her work and support her work. And there's amazing books on her work that you can purchase readily. And I think there's two from Rizzoli in particular that are really wonderful. We just hope that people discover her artistry, and that even though she's gone, that she could still get her flowers, so to speak.
Love that answer. You actually answered my last question, Kareem. So I want to throw it back over to Dennis. What do you hope people take away from, and what you took away from for yourself about Bunny Yeager's story, and what you hope they take away from Naked Ambition?
Well, as Kareem said, my whole practice is about making films of art and artists. It's all I do. That's just what I'm interested in. And at the end of her life, Bunny was beginning to be treated as the true visual artist that she is, as a major photographer. I mean, Diane Arbus came down to Miami, and all she wanted to meet was Bunny. Diane Arbus is, one of the great female photographers of the last century. And Bunny said, I don't know who she is. I don't have time for her. And so she didn't meet with Diane Arbus. Bunny lived in her own construct. She created this world and lived in it. And she didn't go out and try to meet art dealers, or didn't go out and try to meet curators at museums, only at the very end of her life. And now I think going forward, when this film comes out, I believe people will begin to reconsider her as an artist. And boy, if we can accomplish that, it would make me a very happy filmmaker.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Yes. I hope they discover Bunny Yeager, and I hope they discover you guys. I was also doing some homework about you both. You guys have outstanding projects. I want to actually also check out your previous works. I need to check out The Last Resorts. I love Miami. I visit there often. So you guys are the Miami guys, from what I understand, and seeing the past work you all have done. Thank you both so much immensely for your time. Thank you for this documentary. Thank you for seeing it through, Dennis, and bringing Kareem on board. I love it. Again, this is in my probably, like I said, it's in the top 10, if not top 5, if not top 3 docs.
We're feeling the top 3. We're feeling that.
I'm gonna keep it there.
It's almost over. You might as well just go for it.
Right? And it's about to be award season soon. I've got to start voting for you guys. So you guys are there on my list. I'm gonna keep you there. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for your time. Everybody, that is Dennis Scholl and Kareem Tabsch. Naked Ambition arrives in theaters from Music Box Films on September 12th and other theaters. I'll have listings in the description below for you to go check out. Click there, follow, subscribe, support Music Box Films, support Kareem, support Dennis. I'm Tito P. This is the Nerds After Dark show. Go check out Naked Ambition. Until then, love y'all. We're out. Peace.
I've looked at a lot of pinup photography in my life. And the thing that I've noticed about the photos Bunny Yeager took of her models is that you see so much of their personality.
There's something inherently female about the way that she looks at her subjects, and you can feel it reflected back at you because the models, they don't look as much like objects.
What better homework could there be than Bunny Yeager being a pinup model herself? So she could say like, yeah, I know that's killing your back right now. Yes, I know it feels unnatural, but we are gonna get a beautiful shot. That's something that not just anybody can convey.
Facial expressions for glamour photography. Amused, laughing, grinning, giggling, playful, animated, contented, tranquil, charming, seductive, sensual, surprised, serene, coy, wanton, interested, calm, provocative, teasing, awe-inspiring, modest, flirty, alluring, wistful. You mean a good model can do that?
A good model has to do that. Anyone can smile, but how many people can do those expressions?
I really don't know.
Nerds After Dark!
It's just a great time to hang out, meet people. I mean, I've had sex with everybody here already, so it's kind of like,
not me.
Yeah, Nerds After Dark, coming soon.com. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not getting him beat up or me. Not doing it.
Yeah, we don't want to get in trouble.
No. But
And you're not able.
I'm recording.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, thank you, Cordelia. I'm not sure how much time we got because I've got some questions if I can have a good bit of your time. So how much time am I working with you guys?
I think we have about a half an hour. Yeah, we're here for you, but I think we have about half an hour set aside.
Excellent. I'll take it all if I can.
Great.
Because I want to make this, I have a separate interview portion, but I want to make this part of my Nerds After Dark show series because of the subject material and just to have more fun with it. Because
sure.
I'll tell you before we start going that this is in my top 10. Maybe it's it's in the top 5. Maybe it's cracking the top 3 of docs for the year. I got to tell you.
Amazing. Thank you. That's very kind.
Definitely. So I'm recording already. Let's have some fun. I'm gonna do a 3, 2, 1 to help me with my edit. We're gonna be coming off the trailer. I'm gonna introduce myself, introduce the show, introduce you both, and we'll have some fun talking all about how this project came together.
Awesome.
And actually, real quick for you, Kareem, I can brutalize names. Is it Tabsch?
That's perfect.
Okay, sweet.
Brutalized to perfection.
Awesome. And Scholl, Dennis Scholl.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dennis. All right, let's have some fun. We're recording. I'm gonna do a 3, 2, 1. We'll get right into it. All right, here we go. In a 1, 2, 3.